Spring sports underway, and we're in the studio again on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. It's a hybrid edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum today. We're back in the studio. Sam, first time you've been back in the studio.
I feel maskless. I don't know how. I don't know how to talk without this.
Well, I got one in my pocket if you want it. Well, it's nice to be back in the studio. The coach was with us the last edition, and he couldn't be with us today, so we're doing a hybrid version. We got on Zoom Roger Brown of the Union Leader and New Hampshire Hardball, and also New Hampshire Football Report.com. Roger, how are you, sir?
Doing well, gentlemen. How are you too?
Well, let's start off with its spring sports are underway. All the tryouts are over with, and let's go with baseball first. You think, guys? You want to do baseball?
Okay.
All right. What's the latest from the Blue Hawk Nation?
Well, just going into today's show, Sherm, the Exeter Blue Hawk team, they have won a couple of games, and they have lost one under new head coach Kevin Joyce. And Kevin, certainly a known quantity here in Seacoast baseball and around Exeter, replacing longtime coach Kevin McQueen. Roger, any interactions with Coach Joyce during the first three games?
Yeah, Bruce Joyce, I think it is. I talked to him after every game, and the only game that they lost was to a Nashua South team that's undefeated. That was a winnable game. From my understanding, it was 3-1, and South came up with a big hit. So, they're playing well. The Seacoast teams in Division I are all strong right now. Winnicott and Portsmouth are both undefeated. And then you got Exeter 2-1, having lost to an unbeaten team. And, certainly Exeter's got very good and deep starting pitching, or pitching in general. So I would expect them to be in, most games this year, if not win them.
What do you expect to be their toughest matchup this year? Winnicott, Portsmouth?
Yeah, those two, and probably Pinkerton, I would say, Sherm. And then they already lost to South, who's undefeated at this point in the season. So Division I's always tough because everybody's got that number one starter. So even if their record is 500. They've usually won the majority of those games with their ace on the mound. You're a different team. It's unlike other sports. But I think the best teams are, going to be Winnicott, Portsmouth, and Pinkerton. With Exeter probably in that next tier, trying to move into that top group.
It seems like, Roger, the one of the stories on the Seacoast seems to be Winnicott pitcher Joe Allen, who's been recruited by the University of Michigan. Right. And wouldn't that be a nice setup if Allen would be pitching against the Blue Hawks when they meet in Hampton on May 6th?
Yeah, he's definitely a guy I think local fans may want to go get a look at. Could be a high drafted player as well. Young kid from Keene hit a 2-run homer against them when they played. So, but Joe rebounded and I think got the win that game. But yeah, he's definitely, if you can make it to a game on a decent day, you may want to get out and take a peek at him because he's a very accomplished pitcher already heading into his senior year, and expect big things from him. He's probably, at the high school level, him and the kid from Pinkerton, Liam Doyle, are considered to be probably the two best pitchers in the state, I would say.
If you want to take in an Exeter Blue Hawk game, you've got a chance coming up. They have a 3-game homestand coming up next week. On April 22nd, they will host the Keene Blackbirds. On the 27th, it will be the Alvern Broncos coming to town. And always a good game, April 29th, when Bishop Girton take on the Blue Hawks.
Now, we were up there for the tryouts, Coach Taylor and yours truly. At that point, obviously, the teams hadn't been decided who was going to be on. Raj, do you know some of the guys that they're going to be hooking their saddle to on this team this year? The pitching, especially.
Who's that? Exeter, sir? Talking Exeter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, they got a pitcher named Zach Ferris who's got 2 of their wins. He threw a complete game shutout against Londonderry on Monday. You know, then there's Parker Lendrum, who will be another very good pitcher, plays shortstop when he's not on the mound. Jake Weiberg, center fielder, pitcher. You know, those guys are all, you know, probably their top 3 guys in their rotation. And, you know, they're all very good. So it gives them 3 really good pitchers right there. Plus, you know, I'm sure they got more beyond that. But those are 3 guys I think will provide a lot of the leadership. And, you know, guys they'll probably rely on to a large degree this season.
Now, is there another Cody Morissette somewhere on the team?
Oh, I don't know about that, but there, you know, now that you mentioned that, I saw this kid. He's not in the Seacoast, but kid Nolan Colby from Sauhegan, and I wrote that he's very similar to Cody in a lot of ways, and that he's versatile infielder, plays a lot of positions, and he's getting recruited by BC. He's only a sophomore, but the BC head coach was out to see him twice last week. And, you know, he hits like Cody too, you know, very, very good hitter, hits for a lot of power, you know, a lot of extra base hits. So whether or not there's one on Exeter, you know, I'm not sure, but we got something close to him down in Amherst for sure.
Now, Cody and the New Hampshire contingent, a lot of those guys that are in the pros now are playing in the Midwest League. Cody's with Beloit. You hear what's going on out there with those guys?
You know, I haven't kept track of really many of them other than, you know, try and keep tabs on Cody and Grant Levine because they were high draft picks. But I know Cody was, you know, he hit a home run the other day, and I think it was his first hit of the season, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was last Saturday, you know, at this taping, and he went 3 for 4, a couple extra base hits. So, you know, maybe that'll get him going. But other than that, no, I haven't, you know, I don't get out to follow the Midwest League very much, unfortunately.
Because it's a little laid back out there. Beloit, Wisconsin, and they're the what? What's the team's name? The Beloit?
It's probably this time of the year, it's probably the snowflakes. It's probably snowing right now.
They changed names. They used to be, I can remember what they used to be, but I don't know what
If you can remember what they used to be, you are a real Beloit fan.
Yeah, the Snappers. They used to be the Beloit Snappers way back. I remember we had a hat, I think, way back in the good old days. Fisher Cats, what's the deal on the Fisher Cats, Raj, before we jump out of baseball?
Well, yeah, we're playing pretty well. I got to see them, I think it was their home opener. You know, a little early to really know who's what at this point, but, you know, they look like they'll be a team that's, you know, a lot of their higher prospects have, you know, moved on, but they look like a team that have some pretty good pitching. One of their pitchers already got called up to AAA here earlier this week. So, you know, another good year. They're always a good bargain. You know, the price for minor league baseball, it's a good time. So we'll just have to see how the season, you never know with all the shifting of players coming up, you know, moving down. And I saw him play Hartford. I mentioned Grant Levine, and that could be his next stop. The kid out of Bedford who got drafted a couple of years ago, you know, he's with the Colorado organization, and Hartford's their AA team. So he could be, you know, back in the Eastern League here soon if he has a good start in A-ball.
If they get another setup like they did a couple of seasons ago with Vladdy Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and who am I leaving out? I'm missing, there was a third, who was the other
Son.
son?
Biggio.
Biggio, thank you.
Biggio.
Thanks, the Biggio kid. and they're doing well in the majors now, so time to reload for the Fisher Cats. Sam, before we go into another sport, let's you got some of the school boy and girls results and
Yeah, we'll go softball
schedules.
next. Kristen Morissette's club early on this season is 2-1, similar to the baseball team. Lost a tough game the other night. They were playing against Londonderry, and Londonderry came in. I think they scored 6 runs in the final 2 innings to take that one. So that was a tough loss for the girls and the Exeter softball team. The lacrosse team, how about that Blue Hawk start? 4-0, 64 goals in their first 4 games for Matt Brewster's club.
The only team we weren't able to do in the preseason, do an interview with. So Matt Brewster, if you're out there, we'll be up there soon to do an interview with you and some of the team members. They were playing a night scrimmage the day we were up there. They were doing a night practice, so we weren't able to hang around. But we will get back to them for sure.
Right, so they're off to a fast start, a great start, and certainly always the class in boys lacrosse in Division I is Bishop Gurdon. So that's the team that you're always going to be looking for. So we'll keep tabs on the boys lacrosse. Over on the girls' side, Exeter off to a 2-1 start. Seems like everybody's off to a 2-1 start for that club. And then in boys tennis, the Exeter tennis team, the boys tennis team, they're doing a pretty good job. They're at 2-3 and off to a good start. And on the girls' side, the Exeter girls are off to a great start. They're off to 5-1 on girls' tennis. So early spring sports off and running.
Good. And the weather so far, knock on wood, with a couple of exceptions, has cooperated. Another spring, not a spring sport, but a spring event that you and I attended, and Roger was there, UNH's spring football game. The tune-up lets everybody see what the new Rick Santos team will look like in the fall. Some of the components. Your impression, and Roger, do you want Roger
Let's
to go
start with
first?
Roger.
All right, Roger, your impression of what you saw at UNH Wildcat Stadium last week.
I thought Dylan Lobby, their running back, looked good, which is important because I think he'll be their focal point of their offense this year and, carry a heavy load in most games on that side of the ball. Outside of that, I didn't really have many takeaways, only because, they were down 2 quarterbacks. They were down to the 3rd string or number 3 guy on the depth chart, at least heading into last year, he was number 3. And it was rainy, so it was tough. The offenses were not at full strength, and consequently, I'm not sure how much you can judge the defenses when they're not facing, the top guys. So Dylan Lobby was the number 1 takeaway for me. There's a lot of New Hampshire kids on the roster right now. I don't know how many of them will still be there in the fall, but it was kind of surprising to me to see some of the names that are suiting up for them that are, kids that played high school ball here. So, but, like you said, it's almost an entirely new coaching staff, not just the head coach. Most of the assistants are new as well. So should be some interesting, takeaways early in the season to see how they do things, what's different and whatnot.
The one takeaway I had was that the scrimmage was very efficient. There wasn't any playing around. They went out 7 o'clock, bang, bang, bang. They played 4 quarters, the last 2 running time. But it was just, let's go out there, give the guys a chance to show what they've got. We saw a few people, new kids on the block. Whether they'll be there in the fall, like you say, Raj, we'll find out. But takeaways from you.
Yeah, I thought for a debut for Rick Santos and the Wildcats, certainly in games like this, you do not want to show a lot.
Right, exactly.
You don't want Monmouth on September 1st to come away with any indications of what you're going to be doing. But there's a couple of things that I saw. 2 or 3 times, they had 3 wideouts. Mm-hmm. Very rarely in the Coach Mack days did we see 3 wideouts.
True.
The other thing that I noticed is that on the offensive side of the ball, the quarterbacks moved out of the pocket. And that's what Rick Santos did when he was playing for the Wildcats. Mm-hmm. So there seems to be a little bit more action, a little bit more movement, a little bit more spreading the field open, not two tight ends, not anything like that, and keeping anything open. So just on a few plays, as Roger said, you didn't see a lot, and you saw some flashes of some younger players doing quite well. I agree with Roger that Dylan Laube looked very good, and I like Brody McAndrew. I thought he did a very nice job, and so I think there are some things to take away. So, we'll be looking forward to September 1st, Monmouth. That's a 7 o'clock game. It's going to be on television, and so as soon as you turn the calendar from August to September, the Wildcats are going to be there.
It'll be here before you know it.
All right.
The one running back that got a lot of exposure, what was his name? Poirier? Was that his name? The young running back that, what they do is, just in case people want to know how they do it, is they do what they call Team Wild versus Team Cats.
Right.
They take the defense plays on both sides.
Was it Corcoran?
I thought it was a kid named Poirier, wasn't it? Roger?
Pereira.
Pereira
was the second running back.
There was a Poirier, too.
Pereira.
Pereira.
Was he in New Hampshire? Boy, I don't know. I don't think
Do you know much about him, Raj?
I do not. No, he did look good. I don't think he's played much at UNH during his time there, but he stood out early in a couple of early series, I thought, as well. Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
Player like us, Roger, if we were running backs, 5'10", 230, kind of like us.
Yeah, fire plugs.
Something like that, yeah.
If they gave us the ball, that's what it looked like.
If they're chasing me, I'd run a little faster than I probably would otherwise. But he's big, thick kid.
I was impressed.
Again, the other thing I will agree with Sam that I think Brody McAndrew probably benefited from all the extra snaps he's taken because the other two quarterbacks are on the mend, and he did look pretty good, relatively speaking. So that's something that may benefit him, in the long run for sure. And you didn't see a lot of it, but it still stands out whenever you see a quarterback under center. They were under center for a few plays, in the scrimmage, which I thought that's just so rare to see that it stands out these days. Teams not in the shotgun.
Yeah, one other thing I was going to ask you, Roger, and I don't know if you've heard anything or discussed it with Coach Santos. Do you see a situational quarterback scenario coming up in the fall where they'd have the running quarterback and the guy that's going to be thrown downfield?
It's a good question, Sherm. I think they'll play the guy who gives them the best chance to win. And in the past, they've used two guys in the same game. So if they feel that gives them an edge, I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't know. I haven't been given any indication that that's what they're leaning towards. It's such an uncertain position right now with the two QBs coming off of surgery. They're not even healthy, so they may not even know what their plan is at that position at this point. But I wouldn't rule anything out. As you guys know, the offense really, really struggled last year, so they got to do whatever it takes to find the end zone. And if that means multiple quarterbacks in the same game or same series, so be it. Right?
I think it'll work.
As long as they're not.
It worked for Dartmouth when they played us last year. They had that down to a science, and they kept us on our toes, the defense on its toes. So we shall see. It'll be interesting when. Now, when is the official press day? Is that coming up in late August? Have you got that on your calendar?
Sure. Yeah, I don't even think they've announced that yet. So.
That'll be interesting.
It's usually we'll the first day of practice, first or second day of practice, something like that.
Because we'll do a road trip. That'll be a road trip.
We'll do a show from the press box.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Right from the field.
Right from the field.
Hey, we can do it like the big boys do. Have a table out on the field, and maybe Jamie Staten can come over, and Mike Murphy can have a football throwing contest or whatever he does with Jamie every year.
All you have to do is feed me.
Before we change from football, I just want to bring up the debut of the USFL this past weekend. Roger and I had already kicked it around. Sam, did you watch it, and what's your takeaway from it?
15 seconds and that was it.
Wow.
That was it. Not much. Not much at all.
Wow.
Not much at all. Good. I really couldn't tell you the difference between Stallions and Stars, and all I know is everything is in Alabama. That's the only thing I know.
I was confused that two networks had it. I knew they're going to spread it out over all these like sub networks like Peacock and whatever.
I'm just waiting for the XFL with The Rock. So
Well, that's another year away, and that may fold before it starts. I think The Rock might think about it and say, do I really want to waste my money on this? But back to the USFL with you, Raj. You were a fan of the old USFL, the Doug Flutie days. What about what about this one? Did you catch any of the action, and what was your takeaway?
Yeah, I saw the first game. I think it was the first game, or maybe the second, the Birmingham game where they scored late. It was a good game. It was more of a college style game than an NFL game, which I prefer. I don't like just dropping back, passing 40 times a game. So they had some quarterback runs designed out there, and I thought the play, it wasn't like the old USFL in terms of level of play, but it certainly wasn't the XFL. It didn't look like to me. So when you take into consideration, they only had a couple of weeks to get things together. It was a decent product. Got to get better, I'm sure. But if they could put something on the field like they did in the original league, the more football, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, the European League they had a few years back, that was like a farm system for the NFL. The USFL has no connection with the NFL. They're not trying to have it as like a spring training for the pros. I mean, not the pros, but for the NFL. This is strictly two separate entities, correct?
As far as I know, yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm sure the NFL guys are taking a look at, teams and their rosters to see if they got anybody there that'll help them, but I don't think there's any affiliation that I'm aware of.
I think the gimmick, the only thing I didn't like is the gimmicks that they were, and obviously it's opening night and they want to show off, and they had the sideline reporter going up to the coach and he was interviewing the players. At one point he was interviewing the two quarterbacks for the Jersey Generals, and they're trying to study their iPads with the plays, and he's doing the, hi, what do you think, and blah, 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 blah. And one guy was being polite and the other guy, forget it, he just shut him off. I mean, he's like, we're working here, and the other guy wanted his time on the TV. But the thing that got me was they had the coach mic'd up for a whole series of plays.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, three right boomer, and it seemed like that was the only play he kept calling.
Right.
And the quarterback and Jersey Generals have that situational deal where they have the running quarterback and then the passing quarterback.
Okay.
So the running guy, he was like, the coach could have called anything. He was going to go, boom. He had the ball. He was running. If he saw a hole, he was there. Right. And the guy who was the passing quarterback, obviously he was the more controlled, like three right, shotgun Zulu or whatever. Right. I love some of the plays they come up with, all these calls. I can't figure out how a quarterback, I know they got those little wristbands that explain things to them, but I just don't get it. I mean, it's so complicated. It's an impulsive game.
I think whether you're an offensive lineman or an end, you're not listening to the whole play call. Yeah. You're just listening to part of it. You just need to know one thing on that whole thing that he states.
I mean, going back to the iPad thing.
That's going to be your job to do that. Yeah. So it's not as complicated for the players as probably for the quarterback to call it.
Right, and I think going back to the iPad thing though, that's more important when they're actually getting off after a set of downs that didn't go anywhere. They sit down and look at the plays on their iPad and say, "Oh, I see what he's doing. That play, player is here. We got to counteract the line." Okay, okay. Well, it was interesting to watch a few minutes of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. Matter of fact, I have to admit I DVR'd it and watched part of it after the fact.
No fair.
So I did want to mention that, Roger, you're going to be interviewing Ryan Griffin, who had played for the Jets and now he's with the Chicago Bears. That'll be an interview you'll be having, for the Union Leader or for New Hampshire Football Report?
I'm doing that for the Union Leader, sure.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you where it's going to run just yet, but hoping to speak with him, after this show and, have a story up soon. So, he's a legendary guy, got a scholarship to UNH, played at UConn. Most of his career was with Houston, but he's bounced around here. 3 years with the Jets, and he signed a 1-year deal with the Bears. So, good for him, local guy, doing well.
Yeah, the Bears are a team that can always use some help. So
Certainly can. Roger, how about telling us a little bit of what's happening on your websites?
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up, Sam. The baseball site is going gangbusters now with the high school season, in full swing, and trying to keep tabs. There was some stuff on Cody there the other day, Cody Morissette. So between the high school stuff, the Fisher Cats, and doing what I can to track down and follow our local guys in college, there's a good amount of content up there. And I just, most of it's free. There are subscriptions for guys who want to support the site and get some extra content. And I thank everybody who's helped, promote the site and make the site possible by purchasing a subscription. And look forward to bringing you more coverage until the end of the baseball season.
And football will be coming up soon enough, and then that's NewHampshireFootballReport.com, so people can check up and keep tabs of what's going on. And then you have clinics and things like that on the football website that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the local kids are interested, there are two camps in the area this year. One at Portsmouth High School in May for quarterbacks and receivers, May 14th, I think it is. And then we're going to have a lineman camp at Exeter High School on, I think it's June 9th. Have to check the date on that one, but it's going to be right here in town at Exeter. And, figured the lineman camp made sense at Exeter, So
now, baseball, let's go back. Let's go run down the pro teams quickly. I know you're a Dodger fan, Roger, but you got to admit the Red Sox are our home team, even though you bleed Dodger blue. What's your takeaway on what you've seen so far in the first week of the season, Sam?
Well, I mean, the Sox are in first place tie right now with Toronto and New York and Tampa Bay, and that's how it's going to be all year. Baltimore will not be there, but the other four teams will be battling for that top spot all season long. Number one impression for the Red Sox is, where did they find the back end of the bullpen? Has been pitching great. So I can't have any complaints with that right now. Not a lot of hitting in baseball right now in the cold weather, so that's not going to be happening. But just what Alex Cora has done now with the back of the bullpen of Robles and Diekman and Whitlock, you feel pretty good when you get to that point, especially with Whitlock. Boy, they signed him to an extended contract at real team favorable money. He's a gem.
Any surprise, though, that they have not had any luck with either Xander Bogaerts or with Raffy?
No, not at all. And so that's going to be a story all year long for those two guys. Luckily, I thought Xander got off to a real slow start. I thought it was a distraction for him. But over the last 3 or 4 games, he started to hit a little bit right now.
Well, Dodgers, for you, Roger, the Dodgers could always use a third baseman. So if Raffy doesn't sign with the Red Sox, they like to spend money, right?
They do, but they got 2 good ones. They got a good guy there now, and they got a young one that'll ready to replace him. So, we need better athletes in the National League, sure. We can't have those, guys that can't move playing third. We can't just be a hitter over there. You got to be an all-around ball player. So
there you go.
Probably keep Devers.
I thought, Roger, you'd have a T-shirt on today that would just have the word Freddie on it.
I haven't ordered that yet, Sam, but it's coming.
Oh, okay. I'm sure it's in the mail already.
Freddie Freeman,
I
he's referring to.
That said Mookie, though. I had that one.
Oh,
that was a nice little ceremony they had out the other night when Freddie Freeman got his ring from the Atlanta Braves, and of course he has his family there. And
he was very gracious to his former team, the Atlanta Braves. I mean, he didn't hold back his emotion toward his old teammates. Which
but he got a home run off of him and won the game, so hey,
always great to see.
The other playoff teams, the Bruins still have a week left, but they are in the playoffs coming up, and then the Celtics. Any feelings on those two teams?
Nice of Marcus Smart to win Defensive Player of the Year. I thought that was quite impressive for his part. The Kyrie Irving saga is the story of the first round with the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah. I mean, he comes out in the second half and looks all world, but this whole thing with the fans and everybody hates him and everybody hates me and it's me against the world and all of this stuff. I thought the Celtics were very lucky to win that first game in Boston Garden this past week. And this series might go 7 games.
Yeah, Kyrie with his $50,000 fine for
Right. Hand gestures.
hand gesturing, yeah. Bruins?
I think the Bruins are certainly a playoff-bound team. With the hockey that I've watched this year, it's going to be tough to beat teams like Florida and the Colorado Avalanche. I think those 2 teams are head and shoulders above everybody else. But the Bruins will make a run, as they usually do.
What about you, Raj? Take on any of the other teams?
I just agree with Sam with the Bruins. You know, if they're going to need good goaltending like everybody does in the playoffs. And frankly, I've just kind of given up on the NBA, you know, other than following news clips of it. I have no interest in watching like this Kyrie Irving type diva stuff. Turns me off to the league. So I don't root against the Celtics, but I just don't follow it like I once did, you know, back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I'm the wrong guy to turn to for the NBA. I can't stomach that stuff. It's too long.
I'm just going
more of a college guy.
I'm just going to go along with Roger there for a second, because it seems like the NBA right now is just full of what I call shenanigans, okay? I mean, it's either guys are so concerned about after they hit a three-pointer what their display is going to be, or how they're going to turn and how they're going to show their three-point signal or something like that. And does everybody have to complain on every single call that a referee makes, okay? Every single call. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are too many foul calls in the NBA. I think they call it much too tight, especially the offensive fouls. But I'm just thinking that everybody's complaining. It's either the players complaining, the coaches complaining. You just got to look at their complain face all the time. I mean, no one just wants to play anymore.
What about the marathon, Patriots Day in the marathon? Did either of you gentlemen watch any of that at all, or?
I certainly watched a lot of it. I watched all the winners come across the finish line. They had a great day for it. I mean, the weather makes such a difference. And certainly the marathon is much more enjoyable now with the technology that they have. I mean, you've got Sky Eyes, you've got remote mics, you've got the drones, you've got all those things.
Kind of cool.
So, I mean, being able to get close-ups of the runners' faces when they're coming in is certainly impressive.
I was going to say, if anybody viewing this program or listening to the podcast version of it was involved in the marathon, get in touch with me. Probably the easiest one is Sherm Chester at Gmail, because we'd love to have you on the show. And then Bob is going to throw some other places you can contact us. We'd love to do another running show, get our friend Steve Burris and get our producer Bob Glowacki here to the table and talk running. And you know, it's an interesting sport, and all those guys and gals are doing their personal best. I was disappointed Jamie Staten was down there, but he wasn't in the race. Come on, Jamie, get in there. Andrew Vries, their boss, was in it, and a couple of people, I guess the news director was in the race, and it's a lot of them do it for charity, which is a great thing. That's the best part.
Just for some old guy radio stuff, I'll bring up here.
Okay.
Back in the early '80s, there was a big 5K in Portsmouth that was going on, and we did a radio show on a live radio remote on WBBX with that, and my color commentator was Tony Rivas, and Tony is still around 40 years later, and it was enjoyable listening to him on the broadcast on WBZ the other day.
That was cool. I miss Johnny Kelly and Bill Rogers and those guys in the race, but hey, you know, Roger's got to leave us to do that interview. But before you do, Raj, anything for the 2-minute drill?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, sure. You know, this time every year, you got high school coaches seem like to be complaining more and more about their players leaving the team for April vacation. This is something, you know, I was in high school 100 years ago, as you guys were, but we never even considered leaving the team for vacation. I mean, that was not even on the table. And I just think, you know, I guess it's the way of the world today, but, you know, you join the team, you commit to the team, you know, you don't leave. Can you imagine Bill Ball's quarterback saying, "Oh, no, coach, I can't be here Saturday. I'm going away for the weekend"? I mean, it just doesn't happen. And I just think parents need to do a better job of teaching their kids the definition of the word commitment, and if you're on a varsity team and they got games in April, I mean, that should be your first priority, I believe. A couple of years ago, there was a Seacoast softball team I know lost every catcher in the program, not just varsity, but every catcher. They couldn't bring anybody up. So they had to cancel all their games in April because everybody was on vacation. And, you got all your years prior to high school and after, and even during the year to take vacation. Just amazes me about how many people go away during April. I think that's something we got to get away from.
Well, that's a whole another show, the situation of high school versus club sports. And if you commit to AAU teams or things like that, and they have a tournament on a weekend, and you've got a playoff game, and players take off for that tournament.
Yeah.
I've been in that situation too, Sam. Yeah, it's just a lack of commitment. I don't think they just understand the the meaning of the word, and they don't follow through sometimes. So just not something that I'm in favor of, for whatever it's worth.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well, we'll let you go so you can get your interview with Brian Griffin. Always invite him to the show and bring him on sometime. We'd love to talk pro ball with him. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, grab him, and maybe he can grab Hunter for us as well. Have two tight end set.
There you go. Fair enough. We'll try to work that out. So thank you for joining us today. Roger Brown from the Union Leader, New Hampshire Hardball, and NewHampshireFootballReport.com. We'll be touching base with you soon.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me. Take care. Have a good day.
Well, now let's do our 2-minute drill. I'll let you take off first.
I have maybe a little bit longer than 2 minutes, so you're going to have to let me do that here. But there was an article in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and I'm going to give credit to Joe McDonald, who was the reporter from the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. And the title of the article says, "Woo Sox players and coaches react to rules." Now, this is something we're going to have to watch all season long, because in the AAA right now, they are going with the pitch clock.
Right.
They are going with the rules of stepping out of the batter's box, batters having only so many times they could call timeout, things like that. And the umpires are starting to actually call it now. First time that this happened, they didn't call it all the time. But now they were strict to it. And when I read this article, I said amen to that, because during the first 2 weeks of the season, the Worcester games have averaged 2 hours and 39 minutes.
Wow.
They've cut 20 minutes off the time of the baseball game by enforcing the pitch clock, okay? And in the first 5 games for the Woo Sox, there were 9 violations. Check that. There were 9 violations in 3 games. And again, that 20 minutes is significant, and I think they can do even better than that. For Darwinson Hernandez, who we've seen for the Red Sox pitch, is now with the Woo Sox right now. He was able to strike out the side on 8 pitches because he got 2 violations called on strikes. So he had an immaculate inning with 8 pitches because the batter stepped out of the box twice during that time, and the umpire called a strike on him. So those are the things. That's the future of baseball that we're going to see right now. Now, there was also Tristan Cassis was at the plate, who's a fine product for the Red Sox. He'll be playing first base sometime for the Red Sox coming up. It says here he crushed 2 balls, pulling both foul, and he was clearly dialed in during this at-bat. I'm reading from the article. However, the pitcher was given a violation, which resulted in an automatic ball, giving Cassis a free pass. Now, here's the debate. Do you want him walked, or are you paying money to see him swing the bat? Okay?
Right.
So here's would you, come on, he's going to walk again? Do you want to see another walk?
Right.
No. Do you want to see another strikeout? No. But do you want the game to move faster? This is really going to be a push and pull all season long. you know, I wanted him to swing right there, and I think the fans probably did too, said the manager. Pitchers hate the pitch clock. They have universally said we hate it. Players love it. The fielders love it because the game is moving. It's going back and forth. It's getting that way. So, you know, again, for example, one rule that they did the other day is if a pitcher steps off the rubber twice, it's a balk. The runners are going to move up twice, going to move off.
I like that.
During each plate appearance, a batter shall be allowed to request time only once. Okay? You can only take a couple of practice swings before you get into the box the first time. You can't step out and take other practice swings. You can't do that. And pitchers, right now, you have 14 to 19 seconds to throw a pitch. Pitchers are saying, we can go along with the pitch clock, but it's got to be longer. We've got to go 20 to 25 seconds. So there's still some feedback. There's going to be a lot of work going back on this. But just the fact that in the first week of baseball, an average game at 2:39, it works. It works.
I was watching Whitlock the other day, Garrett Whitlock, and I was kind of just timing it with my watch. And 20 seconds is about right. He's an efficient pitcher. He doesn't waste time. I like his delivery. You know, he's got a classic pitcher's delivery. Not one of these out of control, throwing from ball ends and whatever. And the other thing, well, some of those things you just mentioned, that they can be done. Nomar Garcia Parra, really, I go back to him with the gloves and the tapping the toes. He started that stuff
once
years
you
ago.
Once you enforce it, and the players know the rules, they're going to adjust. Okay?
The batting glove thing, you know, every one of them has to tighten it up after they take a swing, you know.
The only thing that the players haven't adjusted to, the batters haven't adjusted to, is the shift. And that drives me wild. They're not going to change their swing for anything.
True.
You can put four guys, you could put four outfielders against Rafi Devers. He's not going to, he'll change his swing. He'll go to left field.
He'll go opposite.
Majorities of players are still not doing that. And, you know, there's still a lot of those tweaks that are out there like now, like making the bases bigger and those types of rule changes right now. You know, that might be going too far. You know, I enjoyed yesterday, there was some 9-inning doubleheaders in Major League Baseball. I said, that's the way it should be. I don't want 2 7-inning doubleheaders. I don't want that done.
That doesn't go.
The ghost runner at second base, I'm still not sold on it. It does end the games quicker. We know that for a fact. So I'll have to still reserve judgment on that. So we're going to see a lot of changes in baseball, but how many changes are good?
Well, the one I was going to ask you about, it's an interesting one, is some teams have adopted it, some are just trying it, and some aren't going to do it. The catcher has if we go back to that thing with the quarterbacks, it's like a device on his wrist, and he clicks numbers, and it's a device that's in the hat of the pitcher.
Right.
So he can feel the impulses of what the pitch is supposed to be and where it's supposed to be thrown.
Right.
Which to me seems a little too complicated.
It could be too much technology.
Yeah, I think it
could be too, and also the fact, I think one of the things you're going to see of teams who are doing that, you're going to see more wild pitches because I think the catchers are going to get crossed up with that happening. They're going to expect a curveball inside. It's going to be a fastball, and they're not going to get there in time. So there's going to be a lot of mistakes.
The stealing signals thing was what brought this all really to a head. And the umpiring thing, I mean, and the technology is there. They showed it on some program I was watching, that they have the face mask with the technology so that if the umpire sets up, and each umpire can set up in a different way. Some like to lean on the catcher, some want to stand behind him. Right. Not too many do the old-fashioned crouch, but a few still do. But anyway, the point is, this mask lines it up with the batter at the plate and basically tells them it's a ball strike. So there's not a guessing. Maybe you see some still. There's a lot of times that they're squeezing the pitcher. I mean, the other day I was watching a game. I'm going, come on, that was a strike, and they showed the little box. It was in there.
I don't know if you've heard this change, Sherm, but baseball is trying to add more offense. They want to put more balls in play.
Right.
But on the other hand, you can remember when Colorado Rockies used to put the baseballs in a humidor,
right.
Okay? So that there'd be more humidity in the baseball so that they wouldn't fly as back and every pitch wouldn't go out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
Do you know that every team right now uses the humidor?
I did not.
All the bases, all the baseball teams use the humidor right now.
Oh, that's funny.
So out of hundreds of games a couple of hundred games that have been played so far. Almost all of those teams, and I don't want to bring betting into this, but almost all of those games have gone under the run total that's been predicted for the game because the baseballs are being deadened in the humidor.
See, now, so is that been adopted by MLB, or is that just something the teams are all just
All I know is that everybody
together?
put their baseballs in a humidor before the game starts.
Now, I remember the old days when the umpires had to take a box or 2 or 5 or whatever boxes of balls and rub them up with that mud, that special mud from wherever it comes from, you know, Euphrates River or wherever, you know. That's I hadn't.
So that goes again. Those goes again. So again, my 2-minute warning has turned into a 10-minute warning on baseball rule changes, and this is not over yet. This is not over yet. Again, one of the things in the collective bargaining agreement is that committees are going to look at these stats during the season this year to come up with recommendations. So it's not over yet.
I see change necessary because the people watching the games, including our age group, our attention span drifts. As we get older, it drifts. I mean, I can sit there, I love watching, it drives my wife nuts, but for MLB extra innings, I have DirecTV, and they give you what they call the mosaic. So you've got 8, 10 games going at the same time, which is fun only because you can go from a dead game to a game that's got some action going on it.
Exactly.
They do the same thing for NFL on the weekends, Sunday ticket. And it makes it more fun to watch because you don't have that dead game. And like we were talking with Dave O'Brien a few weeks ago, you know, you got games that just, you know, he's probably ready to, you know, get in his car and go home because he knows it's over. But that's where having a Jerry Remy or in this case Dennis Eckersley now, somebody that can kind of bring a little life to the game, you know, something that keep me going there, you know, keep me awake here, you know, something. My 2-minute drill. You have HBO, right?
No.
You don't? Oh, I thought you did.
I do not. But what should I watch?
Well, if you do get HBO, if they give you a free weekend.
That's what I want to watch.
One of those HBO free weekends, HBO Max, or I think it's on both. It's called Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty.
Okay.
It's based on Magic Johnson's book, Showtime. And it's very loosely based on it.
Okay.
It's produced by the guy who does the movies with Will Ferrell. He's done Talladega Nights. Adam McKay is the guy's name. He's done Talladega Nights and all those Will Ferrell movies. It's not funny. It's not meant to be a comedy, but it's a caricature of the Lakers and the players. The Showtime being obviously Magic Johnson in that era when Jerry Buss bought the team. Well, the 70s or the late 70s when he bought the team, Dr. Buss, Jerry Buss. And, you know, he basically didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I mean, he had leveraged everything he had. But he somehow finagled the bagel and got the forum, and then the team started to come together. What I don't like about it is that I like historic autobiography of somebody that's factual.
Oh, okay.
This takes a lot of, and it's got name brand stars in it. Adrian Brody plays, not Jerry West, he plays Pat Riley, and Jason Segel plays Paul Westfall. And there's different.
Isn't John C. Reilly in it?
John C. Reilly plays Dr. Buss.
Okay.
He wasn't supposed to be the original. Somebody bailed out. And he took it over, but he does a nice job. But again, they're caricatures. The kid that plays Magic Johnson and the fellow that plays Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, new kids on the block, acting-wise, doing a nice job.
Is Larry Bird in it?
Well, I just got up to the recent episode. It's the Bird Magic era, where it's just starting. Okay, and the kid they got, I don't know who he is, and they got Michael Chiklis playing Red Auerbach.
Does he really? Okay, he's a local guy. He knows what it's about.
Chicky, the guys in sports where I used to call him when they'd call him in the morning. Michael Chiklis does a nice job, but it's a caricature, and I wish it was more factual. And the locations, obviously, it's set in the early '80s. Most of these games. And Boston Garden is gone, long, long gone. So I don't know what they're using for a stadium. They got a parquet floor. Could be the original, doubt it, but it's a good facsimile. But the guy I feel worst for in this whole thing is Jerry West. Well, I know he's got a lot of issues.
I don't know if you heard today that he's filed suit against
HBO?
HBO.
Oh, I believe so.
Again, that he's been slandered and.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they make him look like a total nutbag. And he has had emotional issues. He admits that. I mean,
and HBO is saying that they say right at the beginning that this is a dramatization.
Yeah, but they take a lot of, and I guess that's, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did an op-ed piece for some magazine. I read that. And he is not offended by the show itself. He's just offended by the one dimension of it all. They don't try to show. They show him as a kind of a growly, angry man.
Yeah. And
they don't show what led to a lot of that.
Right.
And they make Magic kind of, I don't know, a cartoon character in a way.
Yeah.
And so it's not. I'm not going to say run out and watch it. Because if you're looking for an autobiography, read the book or watch an ESPN.
Yep.
I think ESPN did something on Magic and the Lakers. I mean, the only thing fun about it is it goes into that era when we were playing them constantly for the championship. But Jerry West, poor guy, I mean, they make him, he had emotional issues, and it's a fact. He won't even come into Boston.
No.
He just recently said, I will avoid Boston. They could offer him $1 million. He will not come this way anymore. Right. It's just an emotional hang-up the guy has with the team, or with the town. But I wish they kind of played him more down the middle, Had him, and they didn't have a name Brian Bird. I wish that of all the people, they couldn't find anybody to play Larry Bird. I mean, they got a guy with a little dinky mustache that kind of looks something like him, but the other one, so you haven't got HBO, so you can't watch Batman. I know you're a superhero guy, but that's for another show, some other day. And believe me, don't waste the 3 hours of your life. Well, when we grew up, Batman was a fun character.
Sure was.
It was, but now they made it such a dark thing.
Yeah, he's no fun anymore.
No, this movie is 3 hours of nothing but
growling and darkness.
Yeah, darkness. I couldn't watch it with my kids or grandkids. I know Adam West and Burt Ward was silliness back in the 60s. Right. But on the other hand, at least you could sit there and watch it with your kid or your grandkids. The old reruns. I mean, this stuff they're throwing out now, it's either too much action or, in this case, just too much darkness. Anyway, so much for my movie review. But back to that Lakers thing. If you get it for a free weekend, give it a try. You'll probably only see the first couple episodes, because that's another thing. They string these things out now, 10 weeks.
They do.
And I don't know. I said, is it worth it?
No.
I'll get a couple more episodes during the Bird era, and after that, I'll probably bail on it.
Again, it's streaming and binging, Sherm. Those are the
Now we always got Peacock and the Lion King sequel, or not Lion King. What is it? Tiger King. Anyway, so much for that. That's it then, right? You got anything else you want to throw on the table?
I think next time that we get together, we'll have a much better look at the Celtics, whether they're going to go anywhere. We'll begin to start talking about the Bruins, and can the Red Sox take this pretty good start and keep it going into the month of May? I hope they can roll. And also, I would just want to say again, if anybody was involved in the marathon, feel free to contact us, and Bob has put the places to go, but Sherm Chester at Gmail. We'd love to have a running show coming up soon. Get our friend Steve Burris back. Again, Bob will be part of it, and it's always fun. It's running season now. It is. So thank you to Roger Brown from the New Hampshire Football Weekly, but more importantly right now, NewHampshireHardball.com, and the Union Leader. And for Sam Bruno, I'm Sherm Chester, inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.
Be sure to subscribe to Exeter TV on YouTube and hit the bell to get notified about new episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum and other local content. Follow the Sports Forum team behind the scenes on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and send us your game footage and photos to our email. That's seacoastsportsforum.extv@gmail.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.